Welcome to Trek Off. My name is Justin.
And my name's Alexia.
And today, I have a raspy voice.
Yes. Today, we're going to try to be nice to Justin because
don't do that.
Because he's damaged.
Why start now?
Because it's going to last like 5 minutes because I mean well. And then you're going to say something dumb, and I'm just going to start berating you.
It's really funny. It's that everyone has deja vu because that's how you started the last podcast.
But see, this time now you're all like sad and in bed with like
exact words. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, but like
I know myself really well, and it happened last time too, didn't it? Like I tried to be nice. I was nice most of it. I think I lasted all the way to the end.
Yeah, you were relatively nice until you're like, fuck you up the ass with a twirling lawnmower. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Why? What did I say?
Terrible. It's terrible. Hey, it's really funny. I spoke to my dad, and my dad said that that one of my great aunts listened to the show to see what it was all about.
Oh my God, are you serious?
And then she said,
oh no.
She said, he uses some colorful language.
That is so very diplomatic what she said there.
To which I said to my dad, I was like, yeah, well, it works for us. It works for the show. My dad's like, well, you got to live with what you say. And I was like, there is this part of me that goes, if I ever wanted to run for office or something, like one day someone's going to pull up like just this one soundbite, up your ass with a twirling lawnmower.
You know what, though? Because here's the thing, and especially since I've been watching a lot of West Wing, like I said, if someone wants to bring that up, if I was ever to be silly enough as to think I should run for public office, watching the behind the scenes and how it's really not about actually doing good stuff, but like it's about, I want to be able to be reelected, and that's all I care about. So like, I kind of don't care about the issues. It's like, no wonder nothing gets done in the fucking government. But if I ever had an idealistic moment where I was like, I can change it somehow, I would hope that this stuff would come up, and then I would sit there and say, you know what? Using colorful language while talking about Star Trek at any point in my life, even if I did it today, has no bearing on my ability to hold a public office. Like, they're not even remotely the same thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't disagree. Just fucking, yeah. So.
Like, that bothers me. Like, when people bring up shit like that in elections, like, it bothers me. If you said something colorful about an issue, and we're talking about my position on the issue rather than my colorful language, fine.
Yeah.
But, like, and if I was using that colorful language perhaps in my capacity as a public figure, like running for office, like during my campaign or while I was on the Senate floor or something, then maybe it's a point of discussion. Maybe. But I don't see what possible bearing that has on anything. Like, I hate that as a concept.
They're just words.
They're just fucking words. Like,
I know,
and sometimes you need them, like for instance, saying, you made somebody feel really crappy the other day, like, isn't the same as saying you made them feel like a total fuck up, and they just aren't. That's not right. Like, those two things are not the same thing at all. Like, how do you convey that same thing? You can't.
Yeah, but like, I'll come straight out and say I've said some horrible things over the course of the 100-odd episodes that we've done.
Oh yeah, no, you always go to a weird dark place. You and Ross.
But it's for entertainment. It's not like I think these things I say. They're just sort of like.
Really? Because they come out of your mouth. They start somewhere.
I know, no. Clearly, if I thought before I spoke, then I would say something different.
Actually, before you do that, we need to, because Ross he gave me a stern talking to. He said, you don't give me my moment of silence anymore. What the fuck? And of course I blamed you, like I do.
Silence for Ross. Here we go. All right, we're done. Okay, so.
That's so cool. That's definitely on you, though. This time, it's not me, and he'll know it.
I saw Ross like days ago, like 4 days ago. I saw Ross.
He gave me shit about it, and I was like, oh, I know. I was like, it's totally Dustin's fault. And he was like, listen, at some point, I'm gonna have to stop looking at Justin and look squarely at you. I think it's exactly what he said. It was super funny. I died laughing at it. I was like, fuck. I better shape up.
Hey, look, speaking of gatherings, let's bring it down for a minute. The Enlight family lost someone last week. And I just want to call it out just real quick. Our good friend Brian Anderson passed away, and I know most of you don't know who he is. But I thought we'd talk about it just because if you ever seen the Ninjas films, he did most of the effects for them. He did like all those cool things where like, people's eyes disappeared and all the times when you
cool
teleport.
magic-y stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff he did.
And all the times Justin would just say, "We'll fix it in post," and poor Brian had to somehow make that happen.
Yeah, he did a lot of the costumes. He was really like super involved in a lot of the stuff that went on with the films, and unfortunately he left us. And we miss him, and we've all been going through something dealing with his passing. So I wanted to take time out here, as I will probably anytime I can, to point out that Brian was a friend. He was part of the whole Enlight family. So we miss you, Brian, and Godspeed. So on to Star Trek and fucking.
Star Trek. Perfect segue. I think he'd appreciate it. I think he'd laugh.
That being said, the other major thing going on, the reason my voice is raspy, as I mentioned in the last podcast, I am status post back surgery right now.
Yeah.
So I'm on a totally new setup, I'm podcasting from bed.
He really is, but like not like I do it all kind of ghetto. Like his is like super swank. Like he's literally laying down in bed.
I wouldn't call it super swank. I mean, it's like I'm laying down.
I
look comfy.
You look really comfy. Like because I can't see the whole frame. Like I just see the mic like hovering perfectly over his mouth. Like in my vision, he has like a bunch of half-naked women that are holding the stuff at the right angles, and then like fanning him with like feathers and stuff, and like dancing in the corner.
It's happening right off.
It's
camera.
all happening right off
amazing.
Camera because I know he's got to be in a lot of pain.
I can't feel my dick.
So like it's just to make it be a better experience for him while he's doing this.
No, it's wonderful. So I am. My voice is raspy because there was a tube down my throat, and don't you say a word because that was a dick down my throat. I know what you were thinking though. You're like,
I wasn't. I mean, never mind the fact that we talked about the importance of fellatio before we went on here.
Of course we did, or as we call it, Tuesday. Because it really is Tuesday.
Because it really is Tuesday.
So yeah, I actually am now hearing the echo. Hello, echo, a little bit, but that's okay. I love hearing me because I'm great.
You are pretty great. I'll give it to you.
So that's going on too.
So he's convalescing at this point, peoples.
Yeah,
how much he loves you is that he has this set up so that he can actually still podcast.
This episode brought to you by Percocet.
Yes.
I'd never taken
probably
Percocet before.
He's probably mixing it with a little alcohol, and he probably oughtn't, but he still is.
Not a chance. No, I'm way smarter than to do that. Nope, I haven't. I'll say here's the thing about Percocet. It doesn't. I know that it's hitting the pain receptors, so it doesn't get you high till after it hits the pain receptors.
Yeah.
And outside of some very, very vivid dreams, I have not had any like sense of like, I can feel the Percocet.
Sure.
Like I don't take much of it. I'm like doing 3 a day.
Good for you.
But I didn't want to even bother. I'm doing 3 a day. I'm trying to walk. I'm trying to get strong fast. But I
cannot even imagine the incredible pain you must be in if you're only taking 3 a day.
But I will say the first night that I went to sleep on the Percocet, what I noticed that the dreams had lots of colors. It was a very colorful dream.
I mean, do you not normally have colors in your dreams?
Not like this. No, these were neon colors.
So you were having an Alexia dream.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, neon colors is like how you see your life.
You were in Alexia land.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. It's like those extra strands of tinsel you put in your hair sometimes. Yeah. That's what was in all of my dreams.
So was I there as the benevolent sovereign that I am of Alexia land?
Bedside, smacking your boobs in my face while Mr. A looked on disapprovingly at me.
He wouldn't know. He would be giggling because he knows it makes you uncomfortable. So
I had a dream. I did have a dream that I got really angry on the Percocet, and that I started yelling at my kids, and I started yelling at everybody, and I was like at a family reunion of my wife's, and I started yelling at everybody there and for like 20 minutes, and I ostracized everybody, and then I started crying, going, "It's the Percocet! I can't control my emotions!" And I had this really, really vivid dream where everybody hated me because of all the stuff I did while I was on Percocet.
That's
So
a really weird dream. Like, I mean, it's
so
like
meta. It's like the Percocet wants to be recognized in my dreams.
it does. It's like you're thinking of it like being like, are you an angry Percocetter? I mean, are you like an angry alcoholic?
And so here's the other thing: is that reason I had back surgery. Part of the reason was for a tingly foot. Well, what does Percocet give you? But tingly fingers and toes. So sometimes I can't tell. Do I have my tingly foot or am I having my Percocet finger? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, is the toe better? I mean, do you have not tingly moments? Is it improvement, hopefully?
I would say it's somewhat improved. I have to, like, there's it's all medically. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about Star Trek.
Okay, we're not going to get all super medical.
Yeah. Our fans are like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
They care about you. I think they care. I don't think that's true.
Except that new person who's listening for the first time that's going, when are they going to talk about anything? Hey, did you see the ad for the new Doctor Who?
No, I didn't.
There finally is so are you caught up to date yet on Doctor Who?
No, we talked about this last time and I'm not.
It's been a week since then.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still a bit afraid. I don't know that I can trust you when it comes to that.
Well, okay. Anyway, there's a trailer for the Doctor Who. It's so wonderfully vague, this new trailer. It shows the new Doctor and shows him talking a little bit and shows lots of explosions and then like these MTV jump cuts of like, I guess, shit that's going to happen during the season. And then has this moody thing at the end. I can't tell you what in the world is going on. But it's enough to tease me. It's a great teaser trailer. So I was excited about that, but I won't talk more about it because I don't want to spoil it for you. What else? Before we get into Trek, what else have you done geek-wise in the last 12 days since we last spoke?
Wow.
Pray tell.
I don't know. I mean, so I went on vacation.
Where'd you go?
We went to visit a friend in Virginia Beach and to enjoy the beachness for the 4th of July. And it was because I really, we'd been saying we should visit him and hang out sometime, and we'd been meaning to, and we never did it, so we finally did it. And so I got to see my first fireworks in the ocean, and it was so amazingly epic. I can't even, just super, super epic. Like, it was like the best thing ever. And they were like super cool fireworks at that. Like, they have these new ones that, like, when they explode, they're like tiny little stars, and then as they fall, they like twinkle, 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 and they're so great. And then they had this one though that like blew my mind. It was like a fucking gecko, like a gecko in the sky made of light that like little by little came down the sky. It was fucking nuts, man. And
Did you save 15% by watching it?
What? No, I did not. But they had hearts as well, and so I would kiss Daryl every time there was a heart.
Oh.
And, because I'm that way. And I got to see this big, huge, cool ass statue of Poseidon. They call it Triton, but they're wrong because it's fucking Poseidon because the Romans just stole everything from the Greeks. Just saying. So they have this super cool Poseidon sculpture.
They call it Neptune.
Oh, Neptune. That's what it is. Neptune. Whatever the Romans renamed it because they suck. So I wanted to climb on it and they wouldn't let me, which made me sad, because it's totally climbable. But I got pictures with the cool statue. And while we were there, though, we met his roommate, who is in the coolest band ever, the coolest geek band.
Oh,
ever.
yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah, go for
it. They do cons, and every con he writes like a new story for all of the members of the band. All of the members of the band are characters in like an RPG tale, essentially. Like they have a mage and they have a fighter.
Like the guild.
Yes. Only they're a band. And so they write like a story. He writes like a whole story, and they have like sequences, like projection sequences in between songs where they go battle villains and monsters and go on quests. And and all the songs feed into whatever this bigger overarching quest is. And I was like, dude, this is fucking awesome. I love this.
And what, pray tell, is the name of the band?
I don't want to mispronounce it.
Well, say it
It's
anyway. I
like
can look it up.
weird. I know it's for Tarina. That's the land that they come for, is Tarina.
Well, people
I'm
probably
looking it
wanting
He's
up.
to look it
looking
up.
up.
Jesus,
Yeah.
I can't believe.
I can't
I
believe you
was
didn't
just on
have
the tip
that.
of my
Like,
tongue.
I know, I lost it. It's like Ian
I don't want to hear about what's on the
Ian
tip of your
Strife.
tongue.
Ian Strife. Because it's spelled all like, fantasy-like and
or
How do you spell
elvishly.
it? So how do you spell it?
I don't know. It's Ian Strife, though. I remembered it.
Ian Strife.
E-I-E-N,
E-I-E-N, I think. Or maybe it's E-I-I-E-N.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
gonna Google it for the
Best podcast ever.
Ever.
best plug
Best
ever.
plug ever.
Wow.
They're awesome.
They're awesome,
Awesome,
though.
anyway.
They've been doing the con circuit for like 3 years, so I'd love to like hook up with them at a con and like
All right, well,
maybe
look,
have
send
him
it-
write a story where we come on as our Trek-Off characters and we battle a dragon, because
Send
I
it to
think
me
I would
and I'll
kick a
put it.
dragon
I'll
ass.
I'll put their name in the show notes. So send it to me.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, so let's get down to it. Let's get down to the main story of
The main story
day.
of tonight.
See, this is when I would do my low voice or of the day. This is I can only do of the day. I'm like in a world. In a world where
Oh, you spelled it
Alexia
right.
just finished. Tell us what you just finished.
I just finished my rewatch of Next Gen.
Excellent. Well, how was that?
Well, here's the thing.
Oh boy.
I know. Here it comes, but
Seriously.
yeah, I kind of don't know how to feel about it, because what was cool is that on Netflix, after you watch the last episode, they have like whatever the special was that was probably on what's it called? Like the DVD set or whatever.
Yeah, whatever aired like right beforehand, probably the final
Or
episode.
maybe even that. Yeah, it was some kind of a special where they have like, it's Riker going behind the scenes and talking about the legacy, how we got here, some of the stuff that's going to feed into the final episode, which was great that I was watching it afterward, because I would have been annoyed, I think, at any of the spoilers. So like what that meant is I sort of had the benefit going into that final episode, because honestly, I think I'd only seen the final episode like once before, a gajillion years ago, when it actually aired, right? So that was a super emotional time for me, because it was like I got together with my friends and then we all like had a group hug and cried that it was over. Like it was bigger than just like an episode. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like watching it in this fashion, right, where I didn't realize at the time when I was watching it that it was the last episode. There's problems with it. Like
With what, the last episode or with all of Next Gen?
With the last episode, I think, that I didn't pick up on at the time, because I was, like I said, I was an emotional time. And like I've watched a lot more Star Trek and rewatched a lot more Star Trek since then, and it was just sort of like, wait a minute.
Well, let's do me a favor. Let's put a pin in the final episode before we get there. What is your overall sense now having watched all of Star Trek: The Next Generation? Like, what is your feeling now that it's over? And this is Daryl. I'm sorry, I did it twice. Mr. A's first time.
Doing it.
Well,
he didn't get to the end though. He hasn't finished his rewatch.
All right, so but
he's still like in season 6 maybe or 5.
All right, so you're here in this with your rewatch. What is your sense having finished this rewatch? What is your overall sense of Next Gen this time around?
I mean, it's still really good. Like I definitely, I notice.
Hold on a second. What is happening?
That's my bird screaming.
Oh, okay. Your bird's like, I like Next Gen too.
Yeah, he goes crazy sometimes.
Wow. Excellent. All right, go on.
So, what's funny about that is he's like nowhere near us. He's like down a level and as far on the other side of the house as possible. Like, and
he's like, you guys talking about Next Gen?
You guys talking about Next Gen? Fucking love Next Gen.
Listen to me. I have opinions.
He's like, I love it. He's upset because he got to the end and there isn't anymore. So he's a bit peeved, is what's going on.
All right, so go on. So all of Next Gen, your impression
I
of the whole
noticed
show.
like some of the, I guess, more nuanced interpersonal stuff. Like you're always talking about how, until we get to DS9, we really don't have like continuation of story. It's episodic, right? So like this,
Yeah.
it's almost like whatever happened in the last episode doesn't matter. And I've always kind of debated you on that point because I don't think that's entirely true.
I don't think that's entirely true either, but
I feel like it's upon rewatching and realizing all the times they mention stuff from previous episodes that's like actually totally relevant. I don't think I mean, it's not as like you had to have watched the last 3 episodes because there's something directly like, because I mean, even on DS9 they would give you the sort of like last time on, you know, DS9. I think the only difference is that it was a little bit subtler and it was more about interpersonal relations and like stuff that happened that like they give you like 1 or 2 sentence throwaway line to catch you up on what that was, like enough that you can continue forward
on
without
DS9?
actually on Next Gen.
Okay.
Like, they don't actually give you the benefit of being like last time on Next Gen, and I think that there are times when that actually might have been nice. Because if you didn't have that continuation, if you had missed that episode, like when Troy and Worf are dating, right? Like that plays in the very last episode.
Sure.
Like kind of a lot, right? Because they're jumping around in time, and you sort of see the ramifications of based on the timeline that you're in or whatever of that relationship. Where if you didn't have sort of the lead up and all the crumbs like from before that, you might be a little bit like, wait, what? Riker and Worf are mad at each other over Troy? I don't what? You know? Whereas if you're watching it, you totally get it. You know, like you're like, yeah, okay, some shit went down. You know what I mean? Like, I guess Riker was peeved that like, because I mean, you have that moment, right? Like when he's about to kiss her or whatever. I mean, I guess that is in the very beginning of the episode, but you've seen the stuff leading up where he's almost told Riker that he's interested in pursuing her, right? Like, there's like probably 2, maybe 3 instances where that happens. And in the very beginning of the episode, he sort of states it explicitly when he's about to kiss her, like, I feel like we should talk to Riker. And she's kind of like, how about we do us? Like, we'll leave him out of it. How's that sound? Like, because it's a little bit like, we're about to get it on, like, let's get it on. And she's like,
all right, so let's talk about all good things. So your overall, so you get to that final episode, you don't know you're about to watch All Good Things. Do you know when the episode starts? Do you know the episode well enough to go, oh, this is it?
I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, I like most of the episodes that I've seen on Next Gen, like repeatedly, have been the stuff that like, because there wasn't Netflix before. You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't have all the DVDs because like that shit wasn't even out. Like, so I didn't have all that stuff at my disposal. So like,
you didn't remember what the final episode of Next Gen was?
Not clearly enough that when it started I was like, oh, it's the last episode. Like, there are definitely episodes that I've caught a number of times on television, right?
Did you eventually
get this is like, that one.
When he goes back in time and Yar's there, are you like, okay, this must be the last one? Like,
I think I did. I think I was like, wait a minute. He's jumping around in time. They're on trial again, much like they were in the very first episode. This seems to be kind of a full circle situation going on.
You don't reach the end of the episode not realizing what you're watching, do you?
No.
No. So you, by the end, you're like, okay, I get this. I get what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. So
so you've got all of, and I'm thinking, I feel like there are definitely, we were sort of talking about this the last time, like in this last season, there are actually a number of episodes that are less than awesome. You know, that lead up to this, you know, sort of supposedly, pretty much everybody seems to agree that it's like a really great episode, and I'm not trying to take anything away from that. For the most part, it is a really great episode. But like,
some people say it's the best episode of Next Gen. Some people say it's the best episode of Star Trek.
No,
I disagree with both those.
I can't say that because by the end, the premise is so flawed that I'm like, I don't see how this works.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
So like,
But
But
I do want to really quick just let you know about the next episode that came after this in season 8. Menacing professors from a university planet question Picard's dedication to science. Barkley gets his foot stuck in a pumpkin. That's from TNG_S8 on Twitter. One more.
Oh, there was one episode that was kind of good that reminds me of, because it had Barkley in it, which is the one where the Enterprise was like getting intelligence, was like developing intelligence.
That's cool. That's a cool one.
Like, that was actually a cool one. And it starts out like you think it's because you've had a couple of ones in that season that are like The Mask, and, you know, like where it's just kind of like you're like, I don't know if this is actually going to be any good, because it kind of starts with Picard and Data in the holodeck. So you're like, oh, okay, it's going to be one of those. It's going to be a holodeck episode. You know what I mean? Which isn't bad, but it's fluff, generally, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, and there are terrible episodes. The sex with the candle one, the one where everybody turns into devolved monsters.
Yes.
Like,
you know what? That one doesn't bother me as much as, like, when you talk about it, it doesn't sound good, but, like, when you actually have, like, just watched it, like, it's kind of cool, like, when they come back.
No, I hate it. It doesn't make any sense. The thing is, there's no logic to it.
I'll agree with you there. Like,
some humans are turning into one thing,
and some humans are turning into other things. Like, so yes, that doesn't work.
It's you know what I really like? I like the episode where and I'm sure eventually we'll do a season 7 rewatch, but where adult Alexander shows up.
Yes.
I like that episode.
I hadn't seen that episode a lot, so like I didn't know it was Alexander.
And I like that actor.
You know what I mean?
That actor shows up a lot. That actor is Odo's dad. He shows up a lot.
And he's good.
He's Odo's dad. He's that he's the Romulan defector. He's everywhere. I like him. He does a really great job as grown up. It's a great episode.
A great episode. It totally is. But I honestly, here's the thing, like if you take out
the sliders
de-evolving, if you take out the de-evolving situation, right? And you don't have, and you like don't think about that, and you just look at it from the perspective of like you watch, and particularly when they come back, right? Like when they leave, it's like everything's fine. They're like running tests or whatever. And like when they come back, like I'm just saying, like that's a great moment. Like that feels like a very classic Trek moment. They return to the ship. They've got no contact with them. It's like rotating in space.
Yeah, but you know the thing is there's the concept of a bullshit premise that I just the premise is so bullshit I can't go with it. As opposed to the one with all the Frozen Enterprise I really liked, and Picard drawing a smiley face in smoke is one of my favorite.
It is a pretty great moment. The Frozen Enterprise is a great episode. Like that's
there are a bunch of good ones in there. There are a bunch of good ones in season 8, but there are some.
And yeah, this was the Worf Sliders episode, right?
No, that's a different one. The Frozen Enterprise in Space is the one where they show
up. No, I know those are two different episodes, but I'm saying that's what you were calling the Sliders episode.
The Worf one is great too. That's great.
I love it because when you first like what's great about that is sometimes when I'm doing like I keep going, right, and you know Mr. A is at whatever point he's at, but like sometimes he'll come in, like he'll be doing work or out whatever, and then he'll come back like while I'm in the middle of watching where I am. And so he actually came in during the beginning of that episode and, like, watched, like, kind of some of it peripherally. And at some point he finally was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, that's what's so great. Like, that's when you know some shit is good. Like
my favorite part about that episode... My favorite part about that episode is that Wesley shows up in it and there's no big deal made about it. It's just in an alternate timeline, Wesley didn't leave. And they don't he doesn't save the ship. He's not instrumental to the plot. It's just that in this timeline, he's still there.
Final episode for Wesley, which don't even get me started on that dumb shit. Like that's one of the ones that like I never liked, and I was like when I got to it, I was like, oh.
You're like, oh, they're setting up Voyager.
I mean, it was more.
That's a whole episode. No, that's a whole.
I mean, I know that it is. It's a whole episode
to
set up Voyager, to set up the Maquis. But what really pisses me off about the episode
specifically
isn't even Chakotay and the Maquis. Like that part of it is actually good. The part where they've negotiated with the Cardassians and these certain planets.
So are you just saying it's the how Wesley's just an asshole to everybody?
Yes. Like,
doesn't make sense.
it completely breaks his fucking character. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you can't have him not on the fucking ship forever, and then he comes back and he's just like a total tool and a dick, and like doesn't want anything to do with Starfleet anymore out of fucking nowhere.
Well,
like, that shit doesn't work.
Thank goodness in Nemesis they show him in a Starfleet uniform and never explain it.
Like, that's the shit I'm talking about. Like, I remember it, like, I was reminded vividly watching that episode again, like, how much I hated it the first time I saw it for that reason, where I was like, what the how many times was he wasn't even an ensign, he wasn't even in anything, he was just like some fucking kid, and he was on the bridge of the Enterprise for how fucking long? And he's like, no, it's just not for me, all of a sudden. Like, wow, dude.
I dig that it's not for him. I'm okay with it not being for him, like having a change of heart. I just don't like how he's
I feel like you needed to back
like
that story up enough to
everybody. He was a shithead to Geordi. He was just a shithead to everybody.
Yeah, like, first of all, if he's questioning things, he doesn't have to be a dick to do that, right?
Yeah.
Second of all, like, you had plenty of times to show, especially like I said, like, they haven't done the show in such a way that they didn't keep continuity with stuff that they had done in the past. You know, you have that chick show up. That was a heartbreaking episode. Oh my god. When Bajoran chick gets picked for the mission.
Ensign Ro? Yeah, that's a great episode.
No, not Ensign Ro. That's a good episode too. I'm talking about the one from
yes.
she was in Starfleet Academy.
Lower Decks is the name of the episode.
Yes, Lower Decks. And I actually kind of really dug that episode, because it's like, here's this episode where you're not following the people that you've been following for however long. Like, they're on the periphery, and you're kind of getting an idea of what it's like for everybody else.
I think at one point she was supposed to show up as a prisoner on Deep Space Nine, but they never did it.
Oh, that would have been awesome. Because I would have liked that better than her actually having been, spoiler alert, dead.
Yeah, but you know what? It would have made the episode not as strong. Her being dead makes the episode really fucking strong.
It does. I mean, it's heartbreaking. Like, because they definitely get you to like her. You know what I mean? Like, when she finally stands up to the captain and because, I mean, it's so odd when he, like, brings her into his office and then is, like, shitty with her. You're like, wow, it's kind of not Picard-like. That's really weird.
Yeah.
Like, and you have your doubts about that interaction, and then when she goes back and stands up to him and he sort of explains that it was to get her to do that, like, you're like, yeah, that's the Picard I know, and you're like, awesome. Like, they didn't actually break his character just because they wanted to, make a point or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes they do that on shows, and they didn't do that. Like, he was true to his character, and he was testing her. So, like, that shit was really good. I guess what I'm saying though is, like, they've clearly got all these crumbs that they've laid, and they could have, and they had several opportunities in other episodes with Wesley. I mean, especially with the whole tribunal and all that stuff that happens, where you could have shown him having some doubts about not knowing if this is what he wanted. Like, and they didn't do that, and it's like, well, you're asking me to swallow a lot. He just shows up, he's a dick, and then he's like, I don't want this life.
I kind of feel like
dude.
the way that we're going through, we should just do like a rapid fire season 7 review from Next Gen. Because we
can't though. Like, there's so many more episodes than we're talking about, and where are we at? We're at like a season 5, maybe.
Yeah, let's just jump to the final episode. I do want to
address the final episode, because while it's very engaging, it's really good until the end.
All right, so let's talk about the whole episode.
Because I have a problem with, like you said, a problem with the premise. Like, how are we?
So let me state the plot of the episode, if I may. And this is from memory. You're watching me on a webcam as we do this. You'll notice I'm not reading anything.
No, he's not.
And I have not been looking it up while we talked. You've been watching me the whole time. But as I remember, Picard is being shuttled around in time back to the Farpoint mission at the point where we are in the 7th season of The Next Generation. And how far in the future?
I think it's 25, 24 years, something like that.
And 20-something years into the future.
Yeah.
For reasons unknown and by forces unknown. And he doesn't know why it's happening, but eventually what he discovers is that there's an anomaly that exists in all 3 time frames that is going to prevent the creation of humanity, and humanity is going to be destroyed. He has to solve that mystery and come to terms with who he is, what they've been doing, what what their entire mission has been for the 7 years that they've been doing it. We find out that it's Q that's been shuttling him back and forth. A rip-roaring adventure happens in the future where he gets the band back together. Meanwhile, in the present, they intellectually discover what's happening, and in the past, he has to immediately gain the trust and respect of a reluctant crew. All three dramas play out. We get to see the future of what's going to happen to everyone in the future, and then by the end, Q lets everything kind of go back to the way that it was because Picard figured out the premise and life goes on. And so that's the episode. We'll get into it. But as we open the episode, Riker and Troy are kissing, and Picard runs in and is like, "Hey, motherfuckers!"
No, not Riker.
No, sorry, Worf and Troy.
Worf and Troy.
I already want to say Riker.
Right? They've
Worf
been on a
kissing.
date.
Yeah.
They don't actually kiss. They're like about to. Like it as it starts. Like like I said, there've been these inklings of like maybe they might hook up, and like, so you're not sure if like you're watching the end of a date, but like with what they're talking about, you're like, sounds a lot like a fucking date. Like, I don't think they was just, like, doing moves in the holodeck, some new program of his.
Picard runs in and he goes, "Right, a prima nocta!" Like from Braveheart. It's like, "I get her first." And Worf's like, "What?"
What?
And she,
I do not remember having to check with you, sir. I thought I might check with Riker because he has touched that pussy before, and I thought it would be only respectful if I was like, "Can I hit that?"
And she's like, "I'm an independent woman. I don't need anyone's permission, but if all three of you would like to come, I'm down."
Exactly. That's totally how Troy rolls. If you know that bitch would be out for a threesome, no doubt.
Foursome. And with the beard, it's 5.
Stop it. How is it a foursome? From her perspective, it's a threesome.
Riker, Picard, and Worf, and her, and Riker's beard.
Okay, well then it's a foursome. I guess
fivesome.
Picard and his beard separate. What I think is funny is that when they show him in the past, like they have a very interesting way of dealing with the fact that he looks nothing like he did back then. Like, and you notice like showing like everybody else that they show, they do a really good job where you're kind of like, I mean, even Picard, where you're like, wow, like he looks like I remember him looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when this shit all started, and like we're talking 7 years later, like a lot's changed.
But they got to show Riker on a view screen, and I know
to show Riker on a view screen, like, and it's totally not like it's dropped in from like somewhere in season 1. Like,
oh, I can tell you the episode. It's the.
Do you know what episode?
It's the episode where they're on the planet and there's like the automated weapons, and he sees the hologram of the other Starfleet officer. And the reason I remember that is that the other guy, the guy who's in the background, was the mean police chief in The Crow, the one who's like all mean to Ernie Hudson the whole time.
Okay.
In The Crow, it's like who's got like he's like the poor man's Edward James Olmos. He has like kind of the pockmarked face, and he's kind of got that gruff character. And so I remember that actor from being in The Crow, and I remember him from that episode. And I was like, you couldn't have digitally removed him. Because I know the episode that's from.
Or framed the shot somehow.
Yeah, because I know the episode that this is from that you're showing me.
And it wasn't Farpoint. Like,
Yeah, no.
most importantly, like it wasn't actually footage from the Farpoint episode. Yeah. But like it was like this is what they had to do to be like, stay down there, number one. We're not gonna pick you up because like they fucking can't because like. Yeah. What are you gonna do? Be like, dude, get on a diet regimen, shave the beard, like what?
Worf is clearly chubby by this point. It's chubby Worf.
But there's because of the hair differentiation, and like he isn't nearly as chubbier as Riker is.
Oh, I would say no. He is. If you look at what Worf did, look, Worf was cut in the first season, and now by season 7 he's chubby, and it's really funny noting that because there's a recent video of Marina Sirtis and Michael Dorn, Michael Dorn's like really thin now.
Yeah.
And there's a video of them watching a bunch of clips trying to figure out what seasons and episodes that they're from, and they can't do it.
That's awesome.
He refers to himself as Chubby Worf.
I mean, I guess it doesn't occur to me that way. Like
and his makeup changed. It changed in season 3, and became sort of the softer Worf that we all kind of knew. So they gave him his old Worf hair back, but he didn't look the same. It just wasn't the same.
I guess he didn't occur to me as like. It wasn't as stark. Like everybody pretty much made the transition well, but it was just so notable that they were like, "There's no fucking thing. There's nothing we can do with Jonathan. We're gonna have to drop in some." But fucking.
He wasn't there. But he wasn't on the ship at that point. It's
no. They made it so that he was not. Yes.
So But he wasn't on the ship until halfway through Farpoint. He didn't get on the ship until halfway through, till after they arrived. So okay, so to get down to it, what's your problem with the premise? There's a huge problem I have. There's a huge problem I have that's downright with my problem with Generations. And I want to go right back to the moment. I have a huge premise problem. I want to hear yours first.
So here's the thing. I'm with you the whole time until we find out what causes the anomaly, because the whole thing is, it's this big dun 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 moment when I'm totally spoiling this for Mr. A, and I don't.
Attention.
Okay.
All right.
There's this moment where Q says to him, he's like, "There's gonna be no humanity, and it's all your fault," right? Like it's this moment, right? And it's like, oh, okay, well, how is that? And you spend the whole episode trying to figure it out. And so I actually had trouble figuring out because it doesn't work the way that they do it. Like by the time when I'm like, wait, no! Because no! Because if he wasn't moving around in time, if Q hadn't done any of this helping of him, then it wouldn't have happened. That's fucking bullshit! Like, it's fucking bullshit!
But that's a Q test.
I call shenanigans!
But that's a Q test. That's the sort of thing Q does, though. Q sets you up.
No, it's not a setup. Like,
it's just like Sherwood Forest. He set him up. He created all the peril. He created all the danger, but ultimately created the situation in which Picard could prevail. And he does that constantly. That's Q's whole thing, is he creates these scenarios in which Picard does something, and then so.
My point being, if Picard wasn't moving around in time, if Picard in all three timelines didn't do the tachyon thing, nothing would have happened. That's my fucking point. Like, without Q driving him to those things, it's not the same thing as Q sticking him in a fucked up scenario, which Q absolutely does.
I think the point is this: I don't think that Q, the one we know, set him up in this destroy humanity thing. I think the Q set him up to do that, and I think Q is the one who's dropping hints to him, going, I think you can figure this out.
But that doesn't hold with what they say. Like, he outright says, so you're helping me by moving, like, you're the reason I'm shifting in time to help me figure this out. And he's like, yes. And it's like, none of it works if he's not shifting in time. None of it.
I have a bigger problem.
How is that helpful? Huh?
I have a bigger problem.
Like, I'm just saying.
Here's my problem, right? Okay. So they get to the Devron system, if I remember correctly, right?
Yep, it's the Devron system.
The Devron system. It's like the Chevron system, but with less gas. So they get to the Devron system, and billions of years ago, the anomaly is so huge that it stops humanity. Right. And in the Farpoint mission, it's enormous, and in the present, it's kind of normal, and in the future, it's not there, and they don't understand why it's not there. Because it gets bigger.
They form it there.
Yeah. So they shoot their tachyon beam into it, and nothing happens because it's not there, and then they fly away from it, and then they fly back to it, and it's there.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't it grow backwards in time? So when they shot it with the tachyon beam and left and came back, it wouldn't have formed.
It couldn't have formed.
Like, isn't that how it happens?
Yeah, no, you're right. That's fucked. But it was fucked long before that. That's my point. Like, the whole thing.
Yeah, but even then, you're like it's fucked because that's a fucked up thing. And I'm like, no, this is impossible within the constraints of the. I mean, the whole thing is
impossible within the constraints of what they said too. Is my point. Like, because he says he's moving him around to help him. Like, that's the line.
But that's just Q being tricky. This is
this is just Q being tricky. You cannot just explain that away. But
this is like the whole fucking premise falling apart.
Yeah, no, the premise falls absolutely apart.
When they arrived in the future, there should be this tiny one that they fired a tachyon beam into and closed, and then been like, we solved it because we closed it, and then they realize, oh no, what we did is when we fired the tachyon beam, we opened it and it went backwards in time. And then they can go back and say, okay, we need to do this extra thing in this, like, into the dark here, or whatever. But the fact that they're going,
But the fact that they have to go in there to like alter the timelines doesn't work if they don't have it.
the fact that they leave and come back
Yeah,
and it's there,
it doesn't work.
Gets the
Because
entire
it's anti-time, right? It's anti-whatever.
So what they should have done, they should have arrived there, fired the tachyon beam into it, and it closes, and they're like, okay, well, I guess it's fixed. And then they go back and they go, it's not fixed. And that's when Picard realizes, no, we didn't fix it. That was the moment that we started it. Because it goes backwards in time.
But then in that case, you don't have this perfect fucking awesome thing of them sacrificing themselves all over the place for humanity if all three aren't there to do it, right? Like
look, I will forgive everything because of the third nacelle and the fucking cannon on the front of the Enterprise. I will forgive everything.
You'll forgive everything.
Because there's a third nacelle. Because when the Enterprise shows up and
the Enterprise of the future is super badass.
And it just blasts through the Klingon warbird like it's nothing.
Oh, I know. It's fucking awesome. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you think that you were like tough? Fuck you.
And then of course none of that happens because of generations.
I guess that's true. Well, but they do say rather explicitly even in that episode though. He's like, we don't really know what's coming, right? Like that's a version of the future, but like that doesn't mean it's what's going to happen for sure. Like nothing's set in stone.
You know what I hate is every time they go into the future, they're like on Star Trek they have to be wearing those shitty red uniforms. Like on the final episode of Voyager, they're all wearing those shitty red uniforms from the end of All Good Things. It's just like they're ugly uniforms. The Starfleet insignia is awful.
I know. I thought that too. I was like, why did we fuck up the uniforms? Like I realized they needed to look significantly different so that we're like clear it's the future and whatnot. But like, come on.
Yeah. No. What? Here's the other thing.
And there are a few things I do like that they do in the episode, like when they're in the future.
I love that Picard and Crusher have married, divorced, but seem to have feelings for each other still.
Yes, I liked that too.
That's a very complicated thing to have given them to do.
Yes, and I dug it. Like I definitely dug it. And I liked like the little things, like when they go to visit Data and you're finally like, okay, here's someone who's not going to have changed because it's the future. And he's like put this ridiculous like swath of white and the whole time, like from the moment you see him, you're like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this shit right here? What the fuck? And like they thankfully like within 2 minutes, because I'm literally like honestly I was like so distracted by that, like I couldn't focus on a damn fucking thing any of them were saying because I was like, why the fuck he got gray? It's a fucking android. What the fuck? Like and just as I'm having that moment, like they give me like 1 or 2 minutes to like set it up and then they make a joke about it where like tell him to stop with that stupid shit. Like, he looks dumb. Like, his crotchety old maid or whatever. And I was like, okay, because I'd buy that. I'd buy that Data would do that. That he would be like...
I love that Patrick Stewart is just about that much older now. It's been 20 years since that episode aired.
Yeah, it's true.
He looks way better than they thought he was going to look.
I mean...
Like, he looks
they just gave him kind of a beard, I feel like. I feel like that's a lot of what they did for older Picard.
No, they didn't. No, he's sort of like crazy and like has like the longish hair and looks like all aged up. And right now he looks barely any older than he did.
Yeah, no, he's definitely looks better, but like that's what I'm saying. Like they made choices about how he keeps himself that I think lend toward that badness, like that make him look older, that Patrick Stewart doesn't actually do. Like he hasn't grown an old man beard. Like and he hasn't let his hair, what hair he had left, grow out and be scraggly so he can look like crazy old guy.
He has, however, climbed into a lobster suit in a bathtub. Something Picard would never do.
I don't know if that's true. I mean,
you don't think Picard would climb into a felt lobster suit and get into a bathtub and allow himself to be photographed?
He might.
I just find it unlikely. Actually, here's a good question for you. Did like the crew of the Enterprise, they like really fucked up? Like if you look at how they ended up in All Good Things, like Geordi seems pretty happy. Picard has lived his life out. Yeah, he's got his little syndrome, but he's like got grapes and stuff, and they don't all hang out, but they're all like get along. Like, Data's like the head of a university. Sure, Troy has died, but it sounds like it wasn't that long ago, and it wasn't that surprising. Like she had like kind of some disease. It sort of sounds like she died of natural causes. And sure, Riker and Worf have grown apart, but it's not like they end up really close anyway. And then you look at like where they did all end up, and it's like the Enterprise is crashed. It's destroyed. Data's dead. Data's dead. Picard has gone through torture over and over again. Like Riker has left the Enterprise. Everybody's gone their separate ways anyway. Worf is a widow. And is somehow gone from being like the ambassador to the Klingon Empire to like just being back on the Enterprise. In Nemesis, it's just like when you look how everyone ended up, like the All Good Things, that was a better send off. Like I think the Next Gen crew would have been better off just like ending it there maybe, because like they don't all end up all that happy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. It's interesting because I
the
was
last time we see them, they're all heartbroken.
I mean, I was definitely sad that come like at the in this future that you see in the episode that they were that they weren't like close, because like in your heart, because of all the time they spend together, like you want them to wind up like still together in some fashion, especially in a time and an era, obviously, when you've got transporters even for them, and space travel. Like y'all don't see each other at all. Like that's really sad. Like,
but on the other hand, or like at least Troy was never mind raped, you know. Like at least Data never had.
Troy was mind raped. You talk about it all the time because she's constantly getting mind raped.
Oh, that's true. No, she got mind raped on the.
Yeah, she always gets mind raped.
Oh, poor Troy.
She's an old hand at that. Because that's what we do with women. It's always got to be about sex and being mind raped or raped in some fashion.
Well, I do mind rape very nearly every woman I meet. It's just like we shake hands and then I use my telepathic powers to mind rape her. I mean, it's just what happens. It's really an 80s thing.
You don't mean anything about it.
I mean, like it was on every 80s TV show. I remember on Cheers when Sam mind raped Diane. It was the best episode.
I must have missed that episode. I feel like I must have watched that show.
Very troubling. They all talked afterward about it.
And that made it better somehow?
Sam vowed to never use the telepathic powers again.
I fucking hope so.
Next Gen. What are you doing? Stupid Next Gen. Stupid Next Gen.
So like when you come to, I guess when I come to the conclusion of the end and it's and like the premise is actually like super fucked and like there's this just huge gaping problem, much like a huge gaping anomaly in space that stops the human race from ever being formed. It really
Except sometimes moves forward in time.
Yeah, it really, but sometimes it goes backward. Like, it really put a damper on it for me. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, so I mean, you got to understand it was like 1995 or some shit. Like, I mean, it was like 1994.
Yep.
Like, I'm in high school. I'm emotional about it. I'm losing my Star Trek, and I'm with all my friends. And, like, I'm not thinking the higher thoughts on that episode. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, when I watched it this time, it was very much like I was still engrossed by it. I still loved the characters. I loved getting the band back together in the future, like, all that stuff. But, like, when you get to the quintessential moment and everything is explained and it's bullshit, I was like, I kind of don't know what to do with this right now. Because I kind of want to be mad at it. Like, it's hard for me to just hold on to the good because it's like you said, like the premise is so fucked.
Well, maybe this is why DS9 has grown so much in popularity and is so many people's favorites. Maybe it lends itself better to this new method of watching it, binge watching. Maybe Next Gen is you had to wait weekly, or even watching it every day, you'd have to wait daily to see the next one, and you're just happy when it comes on. And it's good, it's entertaining, the acting's good, the story from the character's point of view is compelling, and you're into their plight and what's going on, and you can look past. But when you've watched 5 in a row, like the flaws of the not as good ones will come out. And it's, I think that with DS9...
I certainly think that's true. I definitely think that's true. I think when you're binge watching, like, even on The West Wing, I'm coming across that. Like, we're in season 5, I guess. And, like, there's a little bit of coming off the rails sometimes where I'm like, I don't like what we're doing right now. Like, what's happening here? Like, and I feel like you notice that shit when you binge watch something more than when you don't.
You see, and sometimes it goes too far. Like I've considered binge watching Lost again. I was really into Lost when Lost was on. I listened.
I mean, that's how I saw it.
I listened to a Lost podcast. I was so into. Well, that's how I binge watched the first half of it, and then I weekly watched. And looking like I loved the weekly watching, especially because you could talk in between the episodes, and I would listen to a podcast on the Wednesday after every episode. Blah blah. It was a fun way to do it. But now it's so one big story. Whether you agree with the end, same with Battlestar. It's so one big story that like, at least DS9, there's an episodic nature to its one big long story. So that I can watch an episode.
You have something that comes to fruition within the episode. Usually, like by the end, I feel like that's a little less true.
I feel like, but even then, I feel like Battlestar and Lost depended a lot on your desire to see what happened next. And I feel like that's a fine way to tell a story. There's nothing wrong with telling a story that way.
I mean, you know my feelings on telling a story that way. Like,
but
have me come back. Be like My Little Pony. Have me come back because I love it. I like it. And I want to see more. Not because I'm going to, like, explode if I don't know what fucking happens.
Yeah, but especially watching it weekly, though, I loved the anticipation of what's going to happen in between. It made so Lost for me was entertaining in between the weeks. Because I would talk about it, I'd think about it, I'd listen to podcasts about it, I'd speculate on what might happen next. I'd be either happy or disappointed with the answers they would give me, but I'd have a reaction.
You and I are very different in that respect then, because like what happens to me in the interim when I'm like waiting to find out what happens and I like need to know what happens on some shit, like I just get angry. And I'm frustrated that I don't have it, that I don't know, that I need to know, and then like so like what I would actually do if I had the capacity, if I was watching something, like if there were spoilers, if there was someone that knew what was going to happen, I would want to know that. And then I'd be happy to watch it happen.
Well,
but like,
I remember you said that. You
or,
criticized me so much for spoiling things. I'm gonna just take that soundbite and like play it back for you.
Play it back. No, but that's only if it's like I can't actually see it myself at my pace. Like it's not my pace. I'm not setting the pace. Somebody else is. Someone is saying, no, you can't have this right now. So like my defense mechanism, my coping mechanism is to then not think about it. Is to erase it from my mind banks until it comes on again, because that's the only way I can stand it.
Well, and that's why I think DS9 for me strikes that perfect balance, where there's enough of you feel like you're in the middle of a story and you just got to see the next part, even in rewatching, but it's episodic enough that there is a plot that happens within the episode that ends by the end of the episode. There's always something that begins and ends in that episode. Even if you're part of a big 10-part arc, it's the subplot is that this one thing is happening. So there's always an episodic nature to DS9 to go along with its serialized nature. And I feel like it strikes a great balance for rewatching. Whereas I think that I was probably more compelled during Lost or during Battlestar to just like binge it immediately, and same with Buffy. Although I think a Buffy rewatch would probably work in the same way. It's just I can't do it because I can't play Buffy with the kids in the house. So
why not?
Just because stuff. Buffy's not good for kids. Buffy's not a kid show.
Not good for kids. Uh-oh.
No. Well, you know, like there's the episode where Buffy and Riley almost fuck to the point where the world ends.
Don't even get me started on the ridiculous, stupid. That fucking episode was so dumb. Even when it was on the air, I was like, really?
Yeah. That's another story for another day. Listen, this has been great. Thank you for joining us for Trek Off, and thank you, Alexia, for giving me this thing that is not about my fucking back to do.
Yay, I'm glad.
It's a wonderful distraction, and I hope it has been for you guys listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We're on Facebook. A lot of people liking us on Facebook, but then not commenting. We'll get a bunch of new Facebook likes and friends. Comment, man. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts on the final episode of Next Gen, or let us know your thoughts on Lost or on Battlestar, on any of the stuff that we're talking about. And you can also, where else can they hear about us? They can Trek Off Movie. Go to trekoffmovie.com and hear about the movie that I have also started working more on than I was, which is good. now that I am infirmed and stuck to the Stephen Hawking-like existence, where I'm stuck, but I still have a mind that works. So there's that. There's trekoutpodcast.com. Search for us on iTunes. Anything else? Anything you have to push right now? I don't have anything else to push right now.
I don't think so.
We will be showing up in places. There are conversations happening for us to do some live shows coming up. So
there are. Yes.
We'll announce more of that later as we know. But for now, my name is Justin.
And my name is Alexia.
Trek off.
Trek off, bitches.